The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters radio show was originally broadcast on August 10th, 2021.
Aloha and welcome, Maui, to the Maui Chamber's Business Matters radio show, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines and Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. I'm your host, Pamela Tumpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and today we're going to speak with Mayor Victorino, who's going to talk to us about his proposal for the use of 3% county TAT surcharge, streamlining affordable housing and rentals, and updates on federal funding programs. And then we're going to also talk about the federal infrastructure bill, challenges businesses are facing with staffing and tax hike proposals. And we're going to meet an artist and business owner that helps preserve and perpetuate the culture, land, ecological resources that sustain us all here in the islands. But first, we'd like to say a big aloha and good morning, Mayor Victorino. Mahalo for taking time to join us again this morning.
You're welcome, and aloha and mahalo for you and what the Maui Chamber does for this community. All our small businesses are the backbone of our business community, and we need to recognize that and say mahalo for everything they do. And my thing to the public is support local when and where you can. I mean, you know, if we can get it, and it costs a few cents more helping a local family, a local vendor, a family or friend of yours, why not, yeah? So I congratulate everything you guys have been doing during this pandemic. Yes, we're still struggling, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel if we can get vaccinated, if we can get our vaccination programs up and running again. When I say getting the people back, getting back out there and getting vaccinated. So
Absolutely.
With that, let's go real quickly on some COVID numbers, if you don't mind.
Yes, please, Mayor.
Yesterday we had 56 cases. It's been, kind of hovering right around 60. Our average has been 53.86 for a 7-day rolling average, which is the highest ever. But, the Big Island is at 67, Honolulu is at 293, and Kauai is at 16 rolling average. So, as you can see, this new variant has taken off throughout the entire state.
Yes.
I have people blaming the tourists, blaming this, blaming that, But, we got to step back and say we need to work together to make this happen. It's been 17 months of COVID fatigue right now. People are tired, and I understand that. But I'm going to say it in this manner. It's your well-being and health that counts, and that's what we've worked hard throughout. And you know that, Pam. I've stressed that to the businesses, that the health and well-being of our community has to be first and foremost. And that's something that we are taking very seriously. We have discussions, and I cannot say any details, but the governor and the mayors are looking at more restrictions, maybe some pullback, and how we can help our hospital. Our hospitals are being taxed, and I can tell you, the latest number I got from Maui Memorial, they have 25 cases in there, positive, and 4 on vents, only 5 in ICU. So ICU is not being taxed, but there's other things like heart attacks and other things.
Right.
So the staff, ladies and gentlemen, when you don't get vaccinated, get sick, and end up in hospital, it's not the equipment we worry about and the rooms we worry about. It's the staff who has been working at this for 17 months, man. 17 months. They've dedicated lives protecting our well-being, keeping us healthy and safe, doing the best to get us well. I think they deserve a break. So let's do it for them, if nothing else, And for all the anti-vaxxers and all those who don't agree with us, hey, it's your choice. But remember, that choice has a profound effect on somebody else who's maybe made their choices the right choices, and you're infringing on their well-being. So I think that's enough for COVID. How's that sound?
That's awesome. But, thank you, Mayor, for sharing. And I know you're always up to speed on the latest COVID numbers. And and working with the business community, working with the community at large to say, how do we continue to protect our community? And especially, with the keiki going back to school, there's so much going on, and we're seeing the rising numbers, and it is scary, but we know that you're actively, as you said, working with the governor, working with the other mayors, and looking at solutions. And I know you've been doing that with trying to ensure, that we help to continue to sustain businesses as we go along. But, first, health and safety comes first and foremost. So we deeply appreciate all of your efforts.
And, let me make a big shout out quickly, and I'm sorry, Pam.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
To all the businesses, a lot of these clusters are not coming out of the retail hospitality industry. A lot of it is in the bars and restaurants where, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about the bars and restaurants because they do a fabulous job, but just a natural pulling the mask off, sitting in close proximity, talking stories for an hour, 2 hours, enjoying the camaraderie and company. It's not unusual. That's the way we've always lived. But right now, it is getting very dangerous. And so, whether you're vaccinated or not, but those who aren't vaccinated catch the COVID-19, the Delta variant, very quickly. Those who are sometimes get it, but they're less vulnerable and less severe in their cases.
Right.
So, bottom line in all this, and I know I got to go on to other subject. Bottom line is all this. We need to get vaccinated. I'm asking everybody. I hate mandates. I hate to be told what to do. But in this case, we may have to get to that point. But I'm working with the various groups, met with those guys who are complaining about the DOE and what they've done. All these different things I'm working on. I have no control of it. I have no authority over it, but I can advocate for everyone, and I do my best, especially when I can see there is a challenge in how we can do it better.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I know it's you were in the toughest position. I mean, who could have imagined all of this?
Not me, Pat. Remember the days in McDonald's when we worked, right? We worked in McDonald's. I used to think being a manager was being crazy. Oh my God!
Yeah,
that seems like city work now.
I hear that. I so hear that. So, Mayor, I know that you are also working on the proposal to address what's happened with the TAT late in the legislative session, where the state took away the money we normally get in TAT, but allowed counties to charge up to a 3% surcharge. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know you've had plans on this, can you tell us a little bit about, what your plans are for this up to 3% surcharge and how you're looking at using this money?
Yeah. Let me say, first of all, I'm thankful to the legislature who overrode the veto of the governors on this 3%. Because they were taking away our TAT. But what we plan to do is we're putting a proposal together to send down to the council where monies can be used for the hospitality industry, for education, cultural education especially, and protection of resources and facilities like parks and other facilities for which the visitor utilizes constantly,
right.
And so that's really important. We're also taking some of that money and putting in obtainable, affordable rentals for the purpose of taking care of not only the hotel employees, but employees in general, including our small businesses.
Right.
They're a part of this whole picture. Without them, we don't get all the other ancillary services that are necessary. And finally, we're going to work to make this equitable across the board. I know the vice chair of the council has put a bill out that she emulated or copied what Kauai had done, and really was just to put it in the general fund. And if it goes in the general fund, we can still utilize it by specifically allocating portions to different areas. But right now, we want to make sure we have the system in place, and that's where our finance directors and managing directors and mayors, the three of us, are working all together with the state to see if there's some means they could collect it and for a small fee give it to us instead of us all setting up separate departments, because we're going to have the Department of Finance have 2 or 3 people to monitor, to collect for penalties, for inspections. There's a lot that's entailed in this.
Right.
So, what we're hoping is the state has the system already and they have agreed with it, but we've got to do some tweaking of the legislation. So anyhow, we're working on all of this right now so that we hopefully we're crossing our fingers. By October, we can start really implementing, by the end of October, implementing collection of this 2%. And we're all in agreement. I think all the mayors have agreed to look at 3%. I think it's necessary because when you see what we used to get and what we get by going 3%, most of us will get just about the same, if not a little more, based upon some of the numbers we have now. But you and I both know, once the world war opens up, those numbers will drastically change because there'll be other options like Asia, Europe, South America, Africa. Right now, it's just United States basically traveling, and then there's some places in Mexico and some places in the Caribbean and others that are open, but very few.
Right.
And so right now we are the hotspot, which has made it very taxing on our infrastructure, our accommodations, and most importantly on our people.
Yeah.
And to them I say, I'm sorry, but none of us saw this recovery. We're happy it is here, but not this major recovery. And the type of visitors we're getting are not what we're used to. However, we are making, like you have been, and the chamber, we have discussed, wellness and technology and other aspects to not only augment the hospitality industry, but to able to feed ourselves with agriculture, sustainable agriculture that we can do right here in Maui and Maui County. So the future is bright. I see a lot of good things, but there's a lot of steps we got to take. And right now, I got to admit, there's a lot of frustration out there. I tell people, you turn to the good Lord, you let your frustrations out with Him, and He'll always guide you in the best way.
Amen to that. I totally believe that.
Yes.
And, and I appreciate also you mentioning the diversification as well, because that is such an important spot. And where, COVID sort of exacerbated our challenges in that area and made them, shined a beaming light on some of those things. But the good news is there's plans in place. We're working on it, and it's really exciting. And that kind of takes me to affordable housing and rentals, because I know you're a huge champion of that. You just kind of talked about using some of that TAT money for the rental side. Talk to us about how can we streamline this now? Where can we go so that we can make great strides in a short period of time to make up for the gap and the delays that we've had with COVID and other things? We were already behind going into COVID, and we still have a lot of units to get built. So I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on where we can quickly gain some momentum.
Well, there's a number of options out there that we're working on. First of all, I'm trying to work with the council and Mr. Gilbreth on what he's doing, and combining with our plans for out here at Waikapu and in Kihei and some of the other projects that we're putting together right now. Units that we're talking 4 or 5, 1,000 units being built in a certain area to augment and to help relieve pressures of traffic. And for the convenience of the people who want to live in that area because they work there, they play there, their kids go to school there. So that's where, we're looking at the 100-something acres behind our police station as one area. We're looking at, because it's not far from our wastewater, so connection would be easy, and getting back all that R1 water for irrigation and other use around the area would be fabulous. And then it'll give people working here an opportunity to live there. So they don't have to drive from Kahului or Wailuku. They could live there, yeah? And making rentals also. We have a number of rental units being constructed right now or just started. Yesterday we had another blessing, and unfortunately I couldn't go because of what's happening with the high numbers and other things with the state, so I was not able to go, but I know they had their blessing, and I think that's like a couple hundred units. I mean, there's just so much happening that it's really difficult to say specifically what's going on, but I'm saying we are moving, and with the council's support, we are working together to make sure that Maui, first of all, is taken care of. We have Lanai, we're working with Pulama and Ellison and his projects and our projects, and how we can together partner up and make sure that all the infrastructure that goes in doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, because originally we're looking $14 to $16 million just in infrastructure costs to hook up where our land is on Lanai. So we're making some changes there. We hope to eliminate all those costs and take whatever savings we have and put it towards the building of the homes. Because infrastructure adds about $100,000 to $125,000 per home, per unit. And so we want to eliminate that. Now, to fast track, we're trying to, and working with planning now, to make sure the system, especially for affordable rentals and obtainable housing, is streamlined to the best of our ability. It's not easy because there's rules, regs, both state and county, and some even federal, that kicks in, and you got to be careful that you don't augment or circumvent, I should say, not correction, circumvent them. Then you have a real challenge, and then you get into court and all of that. Environmental issues are always another, so if we build near any coastline, SMAs come into play, I think within a mile. So I think our Kihei project is just outside of the SMA, I think, but again, we have the Kiavi Apartments, which will be getting started. That's 200 units in Lahaina. We have Hawaiian Homes that are going to be started here in Wailuku and in Lahaina. So over the next 3 to 4 years, we're looking at about 5,000 to 1,000 units being built. Still, even with that, it's not going to catch us up. We're still going to be behind. And with the influx of people buying from the outside, and it's something that we're working on to see what we can do. Not that we don't welcome new people, but we need to keep homes in our hands, in our residents. Also, on the short-term rentals is another area that we don't want to forget. We're going to go after those illegal TVRs because they have taken homes out of the market for long-term and put them into the short-term, and we think that's not fair. Those who are legal, we respect them and we work with them. But those illegal ones, let me say this way, we're coming. So be mindful. And if we get you, we're going to go after you like a ton of bricks. Excuse me for saying it that way.
Well, that was always the premise, right? The premise was when we allowed B&Bs and vacation rentals, the premise was it was a point to legalize those who were going to do it right.
That's correct.
And to have strong enforcement to protect those, to protect against those who were not going to do it right. So I applaud that effort because it's a huge thing that we continue to contend with, and it's a huge pain point for the community. Mayor, I also wanted to talk a little bit about we're talking about housing and we're talking about rentals and of course there's been some talk, on a federal level, and here in the state, the moratorium that protected people from being evicted, has now ended. I know Ed Case is saying there might be some wiggle room under federal guidelines that maybe helps people stay in their units till October. We're seeing a flux of people who are struggling to find, new places to rent right now. And on the business side, of course, we're also seeing, I know there's some programs for residents and homeowners, residents that rent and homeowners that have some challenges on back-owed stuff. But businesses are also struggling with this as well as these moratoriums. And so I'm just wondering, how are you feeling about these things? Is there any wiggle room within what Ed Case is sharing about, the possible federal delay to October? Can you share any information about that? And what's happening to assist people during this time when they've been struggling just to get through, and we know the landowners have been struggling as well. They've had to still pay for their debt on the land to continue to own the properties as well. So, where are things going right now?
Well, and again, I think this is really a challenge because Congress, and others have kind of indicated that the moratorium is still in existence until October. And we've been advised by Corporation Counsel and others that they really don't know. And so at this juncture, I don't have an answer to that question. We're still looking into it with the AG. The governor has also said that for right now, he's going to follow the federal mandate, but he's not clear on that either. So I think it's kind of a wavering period while we figure this out, and maybe over the next week or two we'll get it cleared and get it cleared up. Now, the challenge that we face here is that many people had programs, and we have programs still yet, for rental assistance and utilities. That's the federal program that we promote all the time on the radio and you see on social media. That is, you're able to pay rent from last year, March, all the way to the end of this year. That program, if you're eligible, could pay any back rent up to March of 2020 and forward until 2020 and up to December of 2021. Okay, so we have where you can get utilities, and utilities would be water, electric, sewer, even cable, and if the cable is just basic, your internet or your cell phone, again, basic services. Not, you can't have all the fringes and get all of the what I mean.
No pay for movies, yeah.
Yeah, no.
HBO.
If your income has been affected due to the downturn, and you're not, even if you're back to work, but you're out of work for 6 months, 8 months, whatever it might be, you qualify. So I recommend everyone get in touch with the Department of Human Concerns or Catholic Charities, and I don't have the numbers right here, but I'll try to get them before we hang up. This will help you get, at least a leg up on your rent and your utilities. The other challenge I'm seeing, and I've been hearing about, is people are now, once this moratorium ends, are telling their tenants, even if they're up to date, that A, they're selling the facility, or B, they're changing when their contract is over or when their rental agreement is over. They're not going to be renewed because either they're going to rent it to somebody else for a higher price, and or that they're going to sell it.
Right.
So that's making the market even worse on top of everything else.
Right.
The apartments that have come online, like Kinoleo, which is 186 affordable units, what do you call that? Carvajini, which is another 100-something units, and other, complexes that have come online in the last year. It takes up some of that, but does not fill the gap quick enough. Also, some condos who used to be on the long-term market are now turning to short-term rentals because they are in the proper zoning. So let me give you Catholic Charities number, 808, everybody, 808, 873-4673. Again, 808-873-4673. And you can contact them. They'll get you the information. They can tell you what page to go and fill out the form if you're capable of doing that. We have different groups here, and they can tell you who can help you, whether it's MEO or some of these other groups that have made their staff available for assistance in this area. So there's a lot of relief, out there. And if you have any questions, I'll give you a web page to go to or email to go to. Go to mauicounty.com, and they will have a dashboard and will lead you around where you need to go. Yeah, and you have questions. The frequently asked questions will be on there, so that will help you also manage to understand what the program's all about. So we have help, and we've had help. And the other help that's coming is the infrastructure, and I think you're going to ask me that question about the Congress and the infrastructure bill. I see that the Senate has agreed to it. There's still some wrangling going on between the two chambers, the House and the Senate. And so I tell everybody, hang loose. We will get help in the very near future for infrastructure. And a lot of this infrastructure is for old rehabilitation and maintenance and expansion, especially when it comes to affordable rentals and obtainable units. This is where this money is going to be not earmarked, but directed towards. So, along with all the other battles we're fighting right now, this one will be coming to help us. And so, I really feel there's a bright future. COVID has slowed us down. I mean, we spent 17 months, 18 months, whatever months fighting COVID, and right now we're in another battle, another surge. And, I feel bad because a lot of our goals have never been accomplished because we've had these challenges, if you want to use that term. However, I feel in the next 6 months to a year, you will see dirt moving in some of these projects, and we will actually have, the ability to show the people what we've said about housing will come to fruition. We're sorry we're taking a little longer. We're sorry about COVID-19. However, I've never lost sight of what is important, the people of Maui County and getting housing. Other programs for short-term rentals that we've talked about, and the illegal TVRs and all of that, we're working on that with the signature and the contract and the public-private partnership between Airbnb and Expedia will also help. A lot of good things happening, and I wish I had time. I could spend the rest of the hour. Shout out to people. I know you want to say, Mayor, thank you. Goodbye.
Actually, Mayor, your timing is perfect. Thank you. We do have someone else on the other line from the U.S. Chamber who's going to talk to us a little bit about that too, but really appreciate that, and I appreciate you sharing. And again, I just want to remind everybody of the number. If you need housing help, if you've got rent or a mortgage and back payments, Linda Munzel was also on the show the other week and also did a great job talking about it. So it's 808-873-4673. Go to mauicounty.gov. Look for that important information. Great things happening. Mayor, we're going to have you on again soon.
Thank you. God bless you. And to everyone out there, aloha. Mahalo for everything you do, keeping us safe. All of you and the people of Maui County, and to all our small businesses, mahalo for everything. Ahui ho.
Mahalo, Mayor. Have a wonderful day. God bless you, too. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Jennings.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
And we're back. I would like to welcome somebody who's been on this show before, the Executive Director of the Western Regional Office on Congressional and Public Affairs Division of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, Jennings Imel. Before he joined the Chamber in 2013, Jennings worked in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Association of Former Members of Congress and at the public affairs firm of Mercury, Clark, and Weinstein. Jennings received a master's degree in international affairs from the George Washington University and bachelor's degree in political science and German from the University of California, Riverside. Good morning, Jennings. How are you today?
Good morning, Pam. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you. It's a beautiful day here in Maui. How's it over where you're at?
It's very nice here as well, but probably not as nice as it is in Maui. So a little jealous, I have to admit.
Well, we always love when you come here, and we always appreciate the great updates. And Mayor was just talking a little bit about the federal infrastructure bill. I'm wondering if you can give us an update on that as well.
Yeah, no, I heard, and I think the mayor's right. Help is on the way. We're excited about that at the U.S. Chamber. The big news from this morning is that the bipartisan infrastructure bill, officially passed the Senate by a vote of 69-30. So really outstanding to see that broad bipartisan support, the fact that we got almost 20 Republican senators on board with this bill. And really just kudos to all the senators that did so much work on this bill for the last several months, especially, Senator Sinema out of Arizona, Senator Portman out of Ohio, really coming together to get this done. This is a major package, a major investment, obviously, in our physical infrastructure, over the next 5 to 10 years. The bill itself has about $550 billion in new spending. It's devoted entirely to physical infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So you've got about $110 billion for roads, bridges, major surface projects, about $66 billion for rail, $65 billion for broadband, big issue, including $2 billion in grants for tribal communities and Native Hawaiian communities to expand their broadband access, about $54 billion for water infrastructure. Also important in that, there's about $8.3 billion for Western water infrastructure to address some of the drought issues that we're seeing across the West. Mm-hmm. And then there's a huge chunk of money for resiliency, $46 billion for resiliency to also address drought, wildfire mitigation, coastal resiliency as well. So very forward-looking bill, but a lot of really, really important provisions, major investments that are long overdue in our physical infrastructure. So happy to see that pass on the Senate side, and now action is going to be moving over to the House, and we've got a long way to go there, but we're very confident that this is going to get done.
Well, it's been something that on so many levels we've been waiting to hear. And, I appreciate your very thorough overview of this because, of course, broadband and digital equity has been a huge issue for us. Particularly on Maui, we've been learning a lot about, just how between, our areas between two mountains and the challenges for getting signal across and things that need to happen and how that's so important for us today and especially in this new market where we're trying to help businesses get started. And then, all of the things on infrastructure, certainly where we've got huge roadway issues. And I love that you talked about on the resiliency side, how they're looking at drought and wildfire and, of course, coastal management. And, of course, with sea level rise, that's a huge issue here for us. So very excited. So tell us about when you think we might start seeing this money get released. Where are we at? What are the projections?
Well, a lot of that's going to kind of depend on what happens, obviously, on the House side. I mean, the projection would be by 2022. Hopefully we'd start to see some of this money come out. As I mentioned, there are quite a few things that have to happen still. Now that action is kind of moved over to the House side, we've got, of course, an August recess underway right now. So the House and House members are currently back in their congressional districts for the next several weeks. They're not slated to come back until mid-September, although they might come back a little earlier. It depends on what Speaker Pelosi wants to do there. But then, and it's important to keep in mind, the House has already passed its own infrastructure bill. Mm-hmm. So there are members that kind of want to kind of stick to that and might not be as open to this bipartisan bill coming out of the Senate. I think we have concerns on both ends of the spectrum, the right and the left, that they have some issues with the bill. So we're going to have to kind of navigate our way through that. And then also the fact that we have a thing called community project funding, which I'm sure you've heard a little bit about, also known as earmarks previously, about 10 years ago, before they ceased to exist in Washington, D.C. It's important to note that the Senate bill doesn't have any community project funding in it, so there's no funding directed towards specific projects. And this is something that the majority of House members, all 435, or the majority of the 435, they've committed to, taking these community project requests and trying to insert some of these requests into the bill. So you've got to navigate through that as well. So that could take some time. It probably would take at least several weeks, probably a couple of months to get this wrapped up, but hopefully we can do it this fall, and then we could start seeing money go out to communities by next year.
Okay, so we've got great news, but we still got a process, so that's great to know. Yes. And one of the things that you can do, even from here, here in Hawaii, is write congressional leaders and let them know how you feel about this. This is, the top concerns that you have for your area in the community, and let them know how this funding would help. So we want to encourage everybody to do that. And often we get such great letters back because people are often very surprised to hear from us out in what is perceived as remote Hawaii.
Yeah, no, it makes a big difference. Absolutely. The engagement directly with your congressional representatives makes a big difference. They really care what you have to say, especially the business community, especially business owners that have a personal story to share on why these issues affect them. That just makes all the difference in the world. And I should also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you, too, to the Maui Chamber for all of your support and signing on to so many different letters on infrastructure and other issues, because that really just goes a long way. And Senate and House staff, they do a diligent job of going through those letters and making sure that they see the folks that are in Hawaii that are signing on to them, and they get that in front of their boss. So it does make a big difference.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate the tremendous work of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce on so many fronts that, are impacting us as a nation and are critical to moving us forward. And, and especially with the, infrastructure right now that's failing in so many different areas. It's really important to get that fixed as soon as possible. So we're really excited about that funding and the work that you've been doing there. So thank you for that. I wanted to just also address, it's something that we're facing here, but of course it's not unique to Hawaii. As businesses are coming back, everybody across the nation is struggling with staffing challenges. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what the U.S. Chamber is seeing, and I know we're hoping that in some cases, as unemployment winds down, we're going to see more workers come back to work. But just wanted to get your take on that.
Yep, we're seeing the exact same thing. The workforce shortage is a severe problem that's hitting just about every business community in America. We call it a workforce crisis because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And while we're happy, of course, to see the infrastructure bill pass, it's important to remember that we actually need people to work on these infrastructure projects as well. So
Sure.
that's got to be part of the conversation in Washington, D.C. is how do we get folks into those jobs and make sure that they're trained and go through the programs necessary to get them upskilled to work in those construction jobs, to build our infrastructure. But certainly the workforce crisis is acute, and we saw that in the latest jobs report. We saw that the job opening number from June, at least tallied at the end of June, was 10.1 million. It's an all-time record number. Meanwhile, we have right around 9 million unemployed individuals. So we have more job openings than we have unemployed. That's a really bad worker ratio if you're an employer. And quite frankly, it's actually worse than it was back in January and February of 2020. And that's before the pandemic, and that's when we thought the workforce issue was probably as bad as it had been.
Right.
The fact that we had about 3.6% unemployment nationwide. We're actually looking at a situation that's even worse now. And we're seeing this in, surveys that we've done of small businesses, of chambers. We did a survey a couple of months ago. 91% of chambers from across the country, 91% said that worker shortages were holding their local economies back. 77% of all employers that we surveyed said that it was either difficult or very difficult to hire somebody. And I saw kind of a similar survey that I think came out of Hawaii. The Hawaii Chamber did one that found something similar. 75% of Hawaii businesses were struggling to fill jobs. And it's particularly acute, and I'm sure you're seeing it in Maui. In the hospitality, the food sector, restaurants, retail, they're having a really, really tough time finding the workers that they need.
Yeah, we've been doing a survey as well, and the bottom line is very few, 90%. I think it's at 90% now, or very close to it, maybe 80%. I haven't gotten the current update this week, but are basically short of employees, and everybody is really struggling. And I would say, yes, it's definitely falling into primarily here the very difficult category of finding the right employees. And it's also, even though we're still social distancing and people aren't at full capacity, just even finding the number of employees needed for the capacity we're at. And again, this is across the nation. I know everybody's struggling with this when you watch the national news. So it's very challenging. But here, of course, the visitors are back, and we're seeing such an increase in that particular area. And those industries are really struggling to keep up with, what the customers expect and the expectation level and spirit of aloha that we want to share and the education we want to share with them as we're trying to also better manage tourism. It's becoming a constant challenge right now.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think to your point, I mean, the two biggest sectors that have been hit the hardest are hotels and restaurants. I mean, that's where we're hearing the majority of these stories of just not having enough staff, not having enough cleaning staff, which is an issue during COVID, right? When you want your room to be clean, not having enough wait staff, and seeing restaurants that are half full, essentially, or they at least look half full because they don't have enough staff to man the whole restaurant, yet you still have a 2-hour wait to get a table. We're just seeing these problems, and obviously this is just more acute on Maui. And like you said, I mean, especially at a time when it seems like just about everybody I know has been going to Maui for the last couple of weeks or months. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of tourists come from the mainland, and that just makes the problem that much more acute and severe.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. We're grateful to have visitors back, and we know they're excited to come, and we're excited to see them. We also are seeing a different kind of visitor, but we are trying to work with them and teach people. But it's been challenge, and we've got as many also have rental car issues and overcrowding issues, given the just tremendous success that we've seen on the comeback. So it's been something that we're dealing with on a regular basis. I know you also wanted to talk about, and we'd like to hear about some of the tax increases that are planned, some current tax hike proposals that are being put forward as part of the budget reconciliation package. Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, absolutely. So that's the next thing. So when we're talking about processes, to get the infrastructure package done, we've got to work through that. And then we have the other dual track process on the budget resolution, currently making its way through the Senate that they're currently kind of voting on right now, and the reconciliation process. So the budget resolution is what unlocks that reconciliation process. And the Senate is working on that, like I said, right now. And then they'll wrap up for the August recess, and then the House will take this up. The resolution itself includes about $3.5 trillion in new spending, so this is a massive, massive package that would be done through the process of reconciliation, which means that you only need a majority vote in the Senate. Instead of having the 60-vote threshold, you just need a simple 51 majority. So this is a very much a partisan way to get a bill passed, which is kind of not what we like to see at the U.S. Chamber. We try to incentivize bipartisanship, so that's one of our issues with this bill. The other issues are, of course, the fact that the price tag is absolutely massive at a time when we don't think that we should be spending this much, when we're already seeing the inflationary pressures that we're seeing across the economy, the amount of debt that this is going to contribute to, obviously very problematic, the interest on the debt. You've got issues like that are kind of top in mind for us. But then also, how are we paying for this package? The major proposals that have been out there from the Biden administration have included tax increases. So increasing the corporate tax rate from 21 to potentially 28%, as well as increasing the capital gains tax rate. Altogether, this would probably constitute the largest tax increase in American history. And increasing these taxes for businesses, at a time like now, when we're dealing with the emergence of the Delta variant, all kinds of uncertainty there, all kinds of issues, as we mentioned, on the workforce side, other supply chain issues that businesses are dealing with, to throw on a tax increase on top of that, that could just be devastating and totally derail our economic momentum and our economic recovery. And in a state like Hawaii, of course, you have to remember that you have your own tax, your own corporate tax, right? In Hawaii, it's, I think, 4.6%. So if you increase the tax to 28%, you're actually increasing the corporate tax rate to 32.6%. That's 6 points higher than the average for all developed nations in the world. So and in the state of Hawaii, you'd be much, much higher than just about every other competitor country. And that puts us obviously at a disadvantage. And lastly, it's important to remember, too, that when we're talking about increasing taxes, corporate taxes, taxes on C Corps, we're not talking about large businesses oftentimes. We're talking about small businesses. Something like 90% of C Corps are actually small businesses. 84% have less than 20 employees. And in the state of Hawaii, you have about 8,000 C Corps that are small businesses that would be affected by a corporate tax increase. So really, really big deal, and it's going to be important for us, especially during the August break when members of Congress are back home, to talk about why these tax increases will derail our economic recovery and why they're a bad idea.
Well, that was the perfect note and a mandate for us to use this August break to talk to congressional leaders and explain the challenges the businesses are going to face. And again, I appreciate you mentioning, and that was very poignant, how when you combine the federal tax increase with Hawaii's corporate tax rate, that we are hit even harder and higher than levels. It's staggering when you hear about than most other developed countries. So as we're trying to compete in a different realm, as we're looking at selling products abroad, it is a significant hit. So that's important to know. Jennings, we have got to have you on again soon. I always enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and let's talk again soon.
That sounds good. Thanks, Pam. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a beautiful Maui day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. All right. Well, we just want to give a quick shout out to Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. I think many of you know she's a spectacular watercolor artist who offers an array of bright and beautiful art and gifts for every occasion. Please visit her in her gallery in historic Makawao Town. You're going to find many amazing treasures. And now I'd like to welcome Corey Roberts of Pono Visions. Corey is an artist and business owner, and he also owns, in addition to Pono Visions, Corey Roberts Photography. Good morning and aloha, Corey.
Hi. Sorry, but my name is Cody.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. You know what? I'm looking at my paper, and it says Cody. So forgive me. I don't know how I got to Corey.
No, it's okay.
Thank you, Cody. So it's Cody Roberts. Let me start this again, just so we cement this in everybody's mind. It's Cody Roberts, and he is the artist and business owner of Pono Visions and Cody Roberts Photography. So thank you, Cody, and I appreciate you correcting me because names are really important to me. So tell me about what inspires you in the art realm and inspired this business.
Thank you. So I'm a fine art landscape photographer. And I specialize in museum quality prints of all sizes. I've always been an artist growing up, drawing and painting, and I just knew early on that I wanted to produce like large works of art that I could see inspiring people in their homes or offices or businesses, what have you. And in Hawaii, I fell in love with photography, which literally translates to drawing with light. And so I found myself painting landscapes with a camera, and that really allowed me to see my work in large format print. And a lot of my inspiration I find in the wilderness and the peace that it brings me. I believe that it's intrinsic to our well-being, especially in our modern age of industrialization. And what's most rewarding is when I connect with people through my art and learn what emotions are invoked and what draws them to my work.
That I wish I could say I was an artist. I'm so not. But that is the thing that I love about art, and I love when artists are talking to people, and I get to overhear some of the conversations, and you get to hear how it moves them. And
yes,
how the art actually moves them, and the memories that it conjures up, or the positive energy that it gives them. It's always very fascinating to me to listen in on some of these conversations that I've gotten to hear about over the years, and I love that that's something that's so important to you in your work is getting to know their response and how it touches them.
To me, there's nothing more important. I mean, I think that's the deepest purpose of art,
I agree. I hadn't really thought about it that way, but, I've always more thought about it as the beauty that it brings, but really it's that beauty or it's that piece that touches you. I think I agree with you. It's that is the deepest purpose. I just never had seen it on that level. And you also, your art is a way that you share a way of giving back and helping to restore our land. So tell us a little bit about that and how you're doing that through your art.
Yeah, so, living on an island, I think you learn firsthand the value of our natural resources and the importance of good stewardship. And I recognize that it's a great privilege that I have to be able to create art with this land. And I really make a conscious effort not to geotag any photos that I share. And then, I actually participate with local conservation organizations whenever I can. And that's given me so much knowledge about our native ecosystems and also led me to some amazing locations in our island wildernesses that I'm able to share with people who may have never or may never have the opportunity to go there. So another thing that I do is for every piece of art that you purchase directly through me or my website, I plant a native Hawaiian tree. And so that's just something basic I feel like I can do, that can maybe hopefully make a larger impact over the long term, and any support also helps me to volunteer more with the local conservation efforts to plant more trees and work towards more efforts to preserve the island ecosystems that we all rely on.
I really love that, and I love the tip that you just shared, and which is you're not geocoding. For those of us, for those born or raised here for a long period of time, we've seen things that used to be sacred places, and they were hidden places that the local community kind of knew, but others didn't know about. You had to know where the secret post was with the piece of T-shirt that was on it that flagged you to this is the driveway that you wanted to go down or the turn. And with social media and all of the geocoding, we said all of those places that used to be hidden or you had to have an in to know how to find them. Everybody knows now. I mean, it's all over the internet. So
it is, and it's something I feel like I'm struggling with as an artist because I don't want to perpetuate that and exploit this land. Like I'm just trying to really capture, the beauty and. Especially when things are changing so rapidly,
Yeah. No, that's very true. Cody, we've got about a minute and a half. I'd like you to tell people where they can find your amazing products. And I also want to say, to that point, I love that you're capturing the beauty, and it's so important to also record and document this beauty, while you have that chance. So for those who are buying your work, they're getting a piece of time. They're getting something that we hope doesn't change, but might change down the road. So you're documenting the beauty that we've had here. Where can people find your artwork?
Yeah, so my work is currently featured at the Maui Hands Gallery in Paia, which is right on Hana Highway across from Flatbread. And also featured at the Hana Coast Gallery, located right next to the Hana Hotel on the ocean side of Hana Highway, just as you're entering Hanatown.
Awesome.
And I really appreciate the love and support from these galleries. Pono, the owner of Maui Hands, and Alicia May, the general manager at Hana Coast. They've just been so good to me. And then, of course, you can find all of my artwork on my personal website, which is www.codyrobertsart.com. And, of course, all Hawaii residents are welcome to receive a Kama'aina discount of 25% off my website.
Awesome. Cody, thank you so much. So we just want to thank Cody for all of his tremendous work, and that is Cody Roberts, Pono Visions. You can find him online. I wish we had more time, but it goes quickly. That's Business Matters for today, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines and Sherry Reeve Gallery and Gifts. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Pamela Tumpot, wishing you blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Aloha.